All right. Well, of course, thank you everyone for joining today. I'm Rachel Huffman. I work on the marketing team here, and with me we have Frank Freehill, who's on the technical solutions team. Just a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We're going to dive into our access control system, talk about how it works with the rest of the ButterflyMX access platform, kind of dive into how it's installed, configured, and supported, and then just a little bit about some FAQs. And I know that many of you online today are new to ButterflyMX, and a few of you have attended our previous live events, but just in case you are new or aren't familiar with this, I'll do a quick intro. So ButterflyMX is a complete access control solution, typically installed in multi-tenant buildings. In fact, we're actually installed in more than 10,000 multifamily, commercial, student housing, and gated communities across the country. And our products allow property staff and residents to manage access on the go. And we like to use these monthly series of live events to dive into an individual product and feature of our systems, as well as educate you on the specifics of our products, what problems they solve, and how to install and successfully sell them. So today, Frank is going to be discussing an overview of our access control system. And of course, we encourage you all to ask questions. Feel free to just leave those in the chat and we'll get to them at the very end. So Frank, take it away.
Great, thanks, Rachel. Perfect. So like she said, hi everyone, I'm Frank, the Director of Technical Solutions here at ButterflyMX, and I'm really excited to have an opportunity to talk to you all about our new access control system today. So our cloud-based access controller and readers allow you to open and manage doors or gates with things like a smartphone, fob, key card, or PIN code. And again, like Rachel was mentioning, the key concept to understand is that all of our access control products connect seamlessly to our video intercoms, key lockers, what else we got? Elevator controls, smart locks for a unified access solution. And I think, again, one of the best parts about it is that it can all be managed from an online dashboard, where again, you can manage things like permissions from anywhere in the world, as well as being able to view audit trails of who's been granted access and into what space. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. Great, so how does our access control system work? A couple key things here is that the keypad and the readers connect to the controller, and they do not require a separate internet connection. This is different from our video intercoms, where each intercom requires its own power and internet connection. So if we look at this little diagram that we have on the right, you can see what a typical deployment of our access control system looks like. So we have in the telco room, you'll find the two-door access controller. You'll see it's connected there to power and to the internet. You'll also see on top that it's connected to a keypad controlling access to a gated pool in this use case, as well as a connection to a vehicle reader that's controlling the garage. And then finally, all the way down at the bottom, you'll see that the access controller is also connected to the video intercom that's at the front door. So now that we've seen what a typical deployment might look like, we can go further into how all the hardware connects. So again, here, the controller serves as the brain for controlling access, receiving permissions from the ButterflyMX cloud, and sending those commands to unlock the doors or gates as necessary. And I think it's important to note here that even as a cloud-based system, our access controller stores the credentials locally. This allows the system to still function in the event of an internet outage, which can be pretty critical. That's, I think, a brief overview of how it all kind of connects. But I think now we can take a look at the different hardware components individually. So the access control hardware. Perfect. So here we have a brief overview of the two-door access controller. Here you'll find things like the MSRP and dealer pricing below that. I think, again, something to note, in order to be eligible for the dealer pricing, you'll need to become ButterflyMX certified. If you're interested in that, we'd be happy to share some more information after the webinar on things like how we can get registered, what the certification process looks like, things like that. Kind of moving along for some additional information that we can see. Access controller, easily retrofittable and is compatible with most access control wiring. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. Again, there are two modes of internet connection, Each side of the device is able to manage a single door, hence the two-door access controller. And like I mentioned before, but I'll reiterate again, the credentials are stored locally to function during network outages. All right, let's continue on with a more, I guess, complete breakdown of the two-door access controller. There's a lot going on here, as you can see. So we'll just start from the top and work our way down a little bit. So we have the cloud controller input on the top. That's a 4-conductor, and it can be used by the devices that you see in the slide on the left, as well as the vehicle reader. But we'll discuss that in a little bit more detail in a separate webinar. Again, this input provides both power and internet to the keypad or reader that it's wired to. Moving on down, it also contains a door state sensor that can be wired to a third-party hardware to do things like send alerts on the state of the door. Continuing on, we have a wet and a dry relay. The wet relay can be used to both provide power to the lock as well as provide that contact closure to release the door. Some specific specs on that. The wet relay can provide power to a lock where the power specs are up to 12 volts and 1 amp. That's important to know because when connecting to a lock that needs more power, we recommend using the dry relay in this case to provide the contact closure to release the door while also introducing an external power source to match the specifications of the lock being installed. For a particular example, when we are seeing large mag locks, for example, that's going to need external power just because it has higher power specs on it. Again, we can continue to kind of move on a little bit to finish off each side of the two-door controller. It also contains an additional REX relay that can be used for peripheral devices like push to exit buttons, also a motion sensor, for example. And then finally, down at the bottom, we do have an auxiliary relay, and then that can be used really in a ton of different use cases, but I guess some examples here would be things like ADA push buttons or an external alarm system, excuse me. And then we haven't talked about the bottom yet, so let's get into it. There you'll see we have one RJ45 port, that's for the hardwired internet connection. We also have a fire alarm relay, a backup battery relay, and then all the way over on the right, we have the barrel connector port for the provided 12-volt power supply, and that's gonna come shipped with all of our two-door controllers. We might have missed one. Yeah, there we go. Let's talk about the keypad, the mullion, and the single gang readers. So just again, some basic specs and the pricing on our readers. We have a standard reader with a keypad, the mullion style reader, like I mentioned, and is a single gang reader as well. Some quick notes, I guess, on these. The readers utilize smart reader technology, communicate via OSDP. What that simply means is that they're fully encrypted end-to-end from the credential to the reader to the controller. And then again, as far as credentials go, there's a lot of choices. They can be mixed and matched. So for example, you can use your smartphone as a mobile credential, swipe to open. You can also use cards and fobs, which we'll talk about in a second. And then obviously with the keypad, you can also enter physical pins on the readers with those. And then, like I said, speaking about fobs and cards, here's some more information on our key cards and fob offerings. Again, pretty brief. We have some pricing there. I guess an important note here is the frequency, which is 13.56 megahertz and a read range of up to 1 foot. Okay, this is important, and I think it's good to spend a little bit of time on some of the important notes on backwards compatibility when introducing the ButterflyMX access control system to a building that's already utilizing fobs. So here, if the building's fobs are already encrypted, our system's not going to be compatible with their existing setup. Similarly, if the existing fobs that they're being used are using Prox or Wiegand technology, you'll also in that case need to introduce ButterflyMX fobs or cards. I think an important thing to know though is that if you're ever unsure about whether or not an existing fob is going to be compatible with our system, you can always reach out to our team. More information, we can always review the specs. And then also, if necessary, you can also send us a test fob, and we're happy to take that testing in our hardware lab and let you know about the compatibility of those fobs. installation, configuration, and support. All right, let's get into it. So the access controller should always be installed in a secure and weatherproof location. Typically what this means, what we see, most commonly like a centrally located telco room like we were looking at before in that diagram. This could also be in an IDF closet or an IT closet. I think, again, an important thing to note in terms of the installation location is that if installation does call for the access controller to be installed outdoors, it must be installed within a weatherproof enclosure. Most commonly, we'll see something like a NEMA enclosure just to make sure that it's protected from the elements. In terms of our access readers and keypads, those are suitable for both indoor and outdoor use. As you can see, it's rated IP65, 55, can't read. And then also, you'll see some information on the temperature specs, just again, important to keep in mind when you're installing the devices. Cabling recommended, okay. Said we would come back to this, and here we are. So for both new and retrofit installations, we are always going to highly recommend the cables from the controllers to the readers be twisted pair and shielded. While other types of cables are compatible with our controllers and readers, again, it's just always best practice to use those twisted pairs and the shielded cables. If you have any questions about existing cabling at a building, similar to the fob compatibility, always just feel free to reach out. We can talk through it and we could figure out what the best use case is going to be for your particular upcoming install. And kind of already hit on it, but again, can the controller and readers be installed using a building's existing wiring? It depends is really the answer. Like I just mentioned, the recommendation is to always use twisted pair and shielded cables. But if the building does have existing wiring for fobs, we can typically reuse that wiring. But again, it's not guaranteed. Each building's got to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis about whether or not that existing cabling can be used. Configuration. So for this, the controllers and readers are managed through our ButterflyMX OS, or operating system. It's the same as our video intercoms. So in this case, residents and staff can use our mobile app to do things like swipe to open. They're able to view activity logs, for example. They can also issue things like virtual keys. And again, when it comes to the configuration, similar to the video intercom, the programming of all of these devices are going to be handled by ButterflyMX's support team. So you don't need to worry too much about the actual programming of all these devices. However, we will need, the assistance of the installer on site just to confirm, when things are powered up and online so that we can do our thing on our side and make sure that they're all programmed appropriately. All right, so we definitely receive a lot of frequently asked questions that we want to spend some time on discussing now. So I think let's just hop into some of the most commonly asked questions. All right, first, what connectivity methods do we support? So we touched on this a little bit, but again, I think it's important to reiterate. We can support two connectivity methods for the controller: hardwired Ethernet and Wi-Fi. In essentially every case when connecting hardware to the internet, no matter what that really is, a hardwired connection is always going to be recommended and preferred for best performance. However, there are use cases where, let's say we're installing at a gate, it's a community where the infrastructure is very far away. In those cases, we can support Wi-Fi. Again, best practice is always going to be that hardwired Ethernet connection. And the second question that we get a lot is, do we support Wiegand? The answer is no. We only support OSDP communication for the two-door access controllers and the readers. I like this one a lot. Can I connect my fire alarm system to the controller, and what happens if I do? So the answer is absolutely yes. When connected, the fire alarm panel can signal to our access controller to essentially automatically unlock all the doors connected to that controller in the event of an emergency. So like we saw before, we do have that relay that can directly, be connected to a building's fire alarm access control panel. Does ButterflyMX sell all of the components in an access control system? So no, ButterflyMX, we're only going to be supplying the controllers and the readers. So other devices and materials like push to exit buttons, the electric locks, the different cabling that's required, that's not going to be included when the controller and the readers are purchased. Does the ACS work with the rest of the ButterflyMX access control platform? Yes. ACS does integrate seamlessly with our entire suite of ButterflyMX hardware and software products, including our online dashboard and mobile app. So I know that was a lot of information in a short period of time. I'm sure we probably received some questions while I was speaking. We do have some time, it looks like. Rachel, do you have anything that we can share?
Yeah, actually, we got a couple questions already submitted, but like he said, keep submitting those. We have a couple more minutes. It looks like the first question we got from the audience was, what if there's an existing access control system?
It's a great question, and there's different options that we can do. Like I was talking about the cabling, we should be compatible with most of the access control cabling that's going to be introduced at a building. So in those cases, it's pretty much going to be like a plug and play. Well, you'll be removing the existing access control system, introducing ours. And I think that's one of the great things about it is that we can be compatible with, again, most access control wiring that's already going to be at a building.
Awesome. And the next question we got is, does the access control system integrate with a property management system?
Yes, it does. And again, I think that's a really great value add for the access control system. In our online dashboard, our portal, the BMX OS, that's where all of the hardware is going to be configured, and it's all going to live in one centrally located spot. What that means is that as you introduce more hardware, maybe you have an existing building that might be using a video intercom without access control, it's super seamless once that installation happens to just, again, introduce that new hardware, and then all of the property management service, things like the directory, user information, it's going to automatically and seamlessly just be pushed to the existing hardware as well. And like I said, it's all managed in one centrally located dashboard.
Awesome. Well, I am afraid it actually is getting pretty close to the end, so we're out of time. And again, thank you all for attending today.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rachel.
See ya.
Till next time.